Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Autopsy with Maddie P. I'm your host, Maddie P. Girl. Did you miss me? Because I missed you. I know. Let me just address the elephant in the room. I did get a new mic cover. Look. Stop. Okay, Miss Professionalism. Welcome back, everyone. We are in our 4-week series. How did week 1 go for you guys? How are you feeling? I'm hoping well. I hope I clocked things out properly for you guys. Week 1, we were learning about our own faults, our own flaws, and our own bullshit, okay? To get to the real root of the problem, which is self. And we're laying it all out on the table. We're in week 2 now, girl. Hello, welcome, ka-chow. We're not really doing much warm-ups, I don't think, during this series. Like, what could I possibly have to say? Besides, I'm getting my wisdom teeth out Wednesday, and I'm really scared, terrified. Actually, I got some nicotine patches to help me. That's honestly what I'm most scared of, is not vaping. It seems like crazy. I'm an addict. It's horrible with the vape. It is crippling. And also, that puts me onto something. When this 4-week when this 4-week plan is over, I thought of something. I want to get rid of some of my worst defects or habits with you guys, okay? The oral fixation that I experience is out of this world astronomical. It is insane, my oral fixation, okay? And I was a finger sucker. That sounded interesting growing up, like as a kid, okay? Sucked my fingers. That never left me. That feeling, that comfort never left me, girl. And I thought it'd be fun together to divulge my oral fixation after these 4 weeks are done. Week 2, girl. Last week, our focus was vulnerability with ourselves. This week, our focus is humility. Now, what is the definition of humility? You might be wondering, because I didn't know what that meant a while ago, and I don't want to tell you wrong, so I'm Googling it. Humility is the quality of being humble. It involves a lack of arrogance and false pride or recognition of one's limitations and the value of others. This was a huge catalyst. Is catalyst the word? A huge player. Humility was a very big character in my recovery and in my healing. I was not humble, and we'll go on to talk about that. Girl. But week 2, our focus is around humility, okay? I'll read it off here. Week 2 calls for us to observe our behaviors. This week is about others and accountability, taking note of our actions and looking to better our attitudes. We are only as good as we treat others. Facts. We are only as good as we treat others, girl. Now, I did have an episode where I said, why do I need to be good? Okay. This was like first 10 episodes, I think. I didn't do that good of a job. I haven't rewatched it, but I remember that was one that I posted that I was just kind of mucky about. And it was just like me being a cunt. So it feels, okay? You know, if you want to go back and watch it, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's just me being harsh, and I am a people pleaser at heart, and so I don't like to come for you or make you feel that way. So maybe that's why I feel it. And in reality, I was just being real. And we'll never know because I'm not going to watch it, okay? So girls. Week 2 obviously calls for our observation and our behaviors around others, but just a little bit too, we're going to have some observation in terms of our own rest, our own diet, our own routine, and kind of like, how are we doing life? Like, do I eat 3 meals? You know? And I don't know if I'm the only person that had to take a step back and actually analyze that. Yes, embarrassing as it must be to admit that, I did have to literally take account of how much I slept and how much I ate, because I was a baby walking around and I was not healthy. And I'm like, who sleeps the same amount every night, whatever. And let me tell you, my circadian rhythm now, you ain't fucking with her. You ain't playing with her. We're out and then we're up. Okay? That's gonna make from a girl. I used to stay up 3 nights of the week, minimum, for party reasons, for the turntness, for the plot. I say this, I joke about this. I have PTSD from that shit. All my cokehead girls know. Like, those birds chirping? No. I will never stay up again in my life, okay? Unless I'm like traveling somewhere or something. And even then, I just know the feeling would scare the absolute criminy Christmas out of this mama right here. So, yeah, I'll never pull an all-nighter. I may never have a sleepover again in my life. I like to go to bed on time, girl. Yeah. Even when I get into 1, 2 a.m., I'm starting to feel like, oh my God, I'm scared. Am I on crack and I don't know? You know? Who has druggeth me on this eve of nings? Back to the topic at hand. I chose for us to observe ourselves first because we all lack, okay? Here's the thing about humility. Here's the thing about morals, which is kind of what we're working on this week. None of us are correct for the most part in 90% of that shit, okay? We're not like out here seeking out being good people and shit. And it's not normal for us. We learn these things, okay? So it's not necessarily about fixing all of it. It's like the ones that are the worst. The defects, the natural arising judgment, some of those things that are really the worst. Because, you know, we're human. We can't, like, what is this? We're not fixing it all at once, you know? So I chose observation because hopefully week 1 allowed you to trust yourself a little bit. Maybe be able to tell some of your faults, tell what's going on here, shoddy bae. I also keep using the term shoddy bae. Can't stop, won't stop. So this is why I chose observation, so that you can see for yourself. Okay. You know, I was so lost and I had spent so much time seeing myself from a different point of view, which is crazy. We talked about derealization, the way that I would see myself literally as if somebody else was observing me. So you'd think I'd be able to pick that shit out. No. The opposite. We are running from that. I do stuff wrong? No, not me. Thank you. Move on to the next. And at some point in my healing, I realized kind of quickly on, I'm like, oh, I am a paranoid bitch. I'm a paranoid bitch. I think everyone hates me and my life revolves around it and like people pleasing. And I have no patience, complete lack of patience. Those were just a few that I observed within my behaviors of when I first got sober. These weren't ones I observed from me being active use, active alcoholism, active addiction, which that's not our point here. You know, I'm not talking to the alcoholics in the room. I'm talking to the girlies who want to get better, the curious girls. But those are my first 2 where I was like, holy shit, she's paranoid. You know, somebody call a doctor, right? And like I say, I love talking about when I come to term with something and when I see something, my epiphanies. Y'all know I love discussing that because I'll say it again. Who would have thunk old girl could do anything, let alone recognize that she is batshit crazy. And that is one of my favorite revolutions, most freeing revolutions. And it makes me feel on top of the world because how mature to see the real shit about me, you know, about ourselves. The importance of gratefulness during week 2, you guys. Gratefulness is, I've said it, at the absolute core of my sobriety and of most people. More importantly than sobriety, healing, which is where me and you are right now in this conversation. I had to be extremely grateful, for everything I have. Not only that, but also everything I am. And I had to realize what I have instead of what I have a lack of. And early in sobriety, I utilized the tool of gratefulness. It's a tool. It is a tool. And I used it a lot. It is like the screwdriver, like the most used. Because I'm feeling down, I'm feeling out, I'm feeling alone in my pain, girl. What do I look at? What I do have. All the things that I have, which is massive. I'm rich as shit in love. I am fucking rich as shit. And so yeah, for selfish reason. But that gratefulness is at the core of humility. It's at the core of how we view people, of how we view others. And humility was a really big feat for me because we'll get into it. I wasn't always the humble girl like I've stated, okay? You know, I've said it before. We don't have to hate life. We don't have to hate life, which does include others, Okay. Life is, when we use that expression, we mean anything outside of us, like life, literally anything. So that does include others. And when you hate life, you start to hate others. And that's something we can't have as people who maybe are coded for not only self-destruction, like I've discussed, but also maybe for victimization, self-victimization, which is a huge issue in myself and in a lot of people. Okay. There's nothing wrong with this. We share this thing in common. I think our generation is highly victimized. Like, we are very victimizing. It's help us, it's me. Look at me now, please, before I crawl into a hole and die. That's the attitude. Okay. I hate that. I hate that shit. I hated being victimized because people just look at you too. That's the funny thing about our generation. Not only are we self-victimizing, we also think that everybody's a fucking pussy. Tell me I'm wrong. Okay? I don't know how that works, but it's like then the person next to you victimizes and you're like, grow a pair. What the fuck? That's not humility. That's not being humble. That's not understanding each other. Okay? I'm not sure if we've talked about the spiritual axiom before, but it doesn't matter. We're on week 2, so we'll discuss it. Spiritual axiom, babes, is when we definitely just talked about this. I can see me just talking about this. That's fine. Spiritual axiom: other people do shit you don't like. It's probably a projection of yourself, which is why that makes you so upset. They are you. They're doing things that you don't fucking like, that you also do. And that really, really irk you, piss you off. That's what a spiritual axiom is. I think I talked a little bit about how that was a transformative thing for me when I learned what spiritual axiom was, because it was a great help in my toolbox for me to see what is fucked with me because I don't like it in others. And I just wanted judgment gone. And in a brain like mine, a brain maybe like yours, that is really, really, really difficult to do. And I needed to leave myself like basically no room or excuse to judge, if that makes sense. So like I had to leave it like when I start to judge, that immediately my brain needs to go to why is that making you mad? Why do you have the place to judge them? Like what about you is holier than our art or whatever, And that like put myself in a box where I couldn't really judge the same, because then I got to look in the mirror, bitch, like for real. And so that's why I discuss the spiritual axiom, and I will multiple times. It's a great tool. And it reminds us that we ain't fucking shit, babes, at all. And especially with judgment and with the way we treat others, the way we care for others, because I was always helpful. I was always kind and patient with people. Obviously, I did my bad shit, but it was natural for me to be this way. But I was highly judgmental. Highly. Like I had no idea that I was basically walking around just simply judging. Can't believe I'm admitting that, but vulnerability, okay? That's some real shit I had to register within me. And if you part with that, you can get that judgment and shit gone. You don't even recognize you're doing it. Even me, after working on it, after being sober and constantly going through the motions of it, to this day, I cannot lie to you, I catch myself judging all the time. Fucked up. But like, and I mean judgment in any flavor, in any form, okay? Judgment is not just us being like, damn, her skirt's ugly. That's not the way I judge, like I've grown out of that type of little kid shit. But maybe, for example, like my neighbors, when they're screaming and shit, I find myself judging their relationship and judging him. And I'll like think about it and it amazes me. Like not a crazy amount, or like I'm not a psychopath, okay? But enough where I'm like, that's not my fucking, what? That's not my business. And I'm mad judgmental now. And I'm looking at him like, not my fucking business. Okay? I was supposed to loop back to a point there. The point was missed. And I'm openly saying that, okay? But that spiritual axiom triggered some healing in me, because it wasn't, like I said, judgment necessarily about other girls. It wasn't me being a hater. It was judgment about the society as a whole. It was about people in the grocery store who piss me off and who I have a right to judge. Some of these things, like normal people would judge it, but as an alcoholic, for myself, I don't have room for those type of defects. I'm not really allowed, because it's a rule I made for myself. And it's not normal the way that I do it. okay? And the way that I judge self is so deep too, that like the amount of them together just can't exist. Like it doesn't matter if the form is for self that the judgment is occurring or if the form is for others. It's too much and it's not like right. It's wonky and it's not the way other people do it. And I don't have that privilege, okay? And I just think anyone healing, I think if you can take some of those bigger things out of your life, those behaviors of how you treat people, and maybe it's like you struggle more. Maybe you're a bitch, you know, like I'm just trying to help you. I don't like, maybe you discovered this, not calling you out. Like maybe this is something you're discovering during week 2. And that has to do with maybe you're a hater and you don't like to see other people win, which is very real. I had that for a while. I did not like to see other people win. If we're being completely honest, I still struggle with that. I'm a human. Sometimes there are things granted to people I wish I had. And that's just natural, bro. It's me being a human. So don't shit on me. It's me being a human. Or there's just a lot of things. Or maybe you think people cry too much or victimizing. Maybe it's people you don't know. You don't think they deserve help. Whatever the point is, you see an old lady and you're like, I don't know. Okay? I don't know. But it's progress, guys. And I'm illustrating to you the way that we have to understand progress. And we got to team up with it. Because we can say progress, not perfection, every day, 1,010,000 times. It doesn't sink in until progress is your goal and the striving factor. I cannot stress to you the amount of leeway that you need within healing. I know I've given you space in these weeks, in week 2 as well, but have you given yourself that space? Not sure. And I hope that you are, because this is strenuous and it requires a great amount of sit back and relax and take things chill and realize that I'm a person and this is progress and this might be a tiny feat at a time. That's what mental health looks like, guys. And that's because we are also very determined and we are diligent in our work with that. Because we have to stay on the same track, and there's a dedication that comes with that when you understand just a little bit at a time. You throw all that shit on your chest, you're going to freak out, babes. You're going to freak out. Trust me. Been there, done that. Okay. And I guess I'll expose myself a little bit. Like I said, too, coming into sobriety, I recognized early on that one thing I can do is fix my actions and fix who I am. And I can take on maybe the role of being a good person. And maybe this could be my purpose for a bit. Maybe this is just what I focus on for the time being. This is where I put my time and dedication while trying to stay sober, which is a full-time job. Okay? Just need something to look forward to each day, a purpose to continue forward, alive, B, sober. And that way was through humility and was through learning others and how unimportant I truly am. At the same time of my feelings are very important, right? Obviously, but I am pretty insignificant in this life, you know? And that's just the way it is. And I didn't understand that. So I will share with you the fact that I thought I was better than people. Ugh. I really genuinely thought that. Most people, almost all people actually, which is crazy because I've exposed my basically abusive relationship with myself and my huge amount of judgment that I self-inflicted to then at the same time go and think I'm better somehow than everyone else. That became apparent to me through learning healing and through just my eyes being open to what a good person actually is. We discussed what a good person is in week 1, and humility is on that list. And I just realized when I didn't know what the word humility meant, and I wasn't doing those things that a good person would do. And that was made evident to me very clearly and very early. And it was a basis. Humility was a basis that I wanted to live by and I wanted to fight for because I thought that was a moral of mine. I thought I fully understood that I wasn't more important than the next. Like I wasn't walking around like my shit don't stink. I thought that I put people first. I genuinely thought that. And that was not even close to the case. Like, so these are things that you're not maybe seeking that out. You're not trying to be that. It's happening to you though. And you are that now. So we want to reach for the things, like if that's something that you wish you were, or you think that you are, become that. And it is possible. And that's where the steps, not steps, but like these little things kind of come into play to add up and make one. Okay. And how we make these ideals and what we want to be very real life is something as simple as humility, starting with the base like that, and understanding that. And there was a time where somebody in my life, this was like about a month ago, told me that I was carrying myself with grace and with dignity, and that I was illustrating humility in an enormous way. And like, you see me toot my own horn. So whatever, you saw me toot my own horn when I just said that. But I was like, holy fuck. Again, I have worked so hard for that. And when those things start to happen, sometimes I didn't even recognize that, like I'm being transformed by this new healing life slowly into that happening and not even me recognizing it, because these are now character traits I'm walking around with. And part of that too is recognizing that like people were just pissing me the fuck off. Like genuinely, like just my friends, sorry, love you guys. But like people coming to me, talking to me about shit, bothering me, fucking calling me at night, whatever, like just being annoying. So I thought, because I was not a kind person. I was not a humble person, and I didn't understand that, I'm a piece of shit. And that was a big eye opener. Okay. It was just being annoyed in general, that's not humble. Being annoyed like by people is not being humble. And I call to be humble. Like my personality calls for it. Was that like, I don't know what that was, but I'm being vulnerable right now. I'm leaving that there. Okay. And listening to others was a very fun tool to utilize. And it made my life more fun, because when I found myself getting annoyed or whatever, I got to stop and think, this person has a universe inside of them. And I won't go too far into it. I shared it on that episode. If you want to go watch more about it, you can go watch it. But, they've got a universe inside of them. And I get to explore another person. I'm stuck in my head all the fucking time. This is sick. It makes things fun. It makes healing exciting and all encompassing, and just keeping humility drained in your brain throughout the day, and constantly striving to be second, constantly striving for somebody to come first or something to come first, even if it's you praying for a moment, whatever, dude. And that is what is life changing. Humility and gratefulness, that is what changes your life. That is what heals you from the inside out. It takes care of those things. It takes care of you. Learning these things is healing. It heals you from the inside. We don't go to the base of the problem. We don't worry about it until, like, we don't worry about it to a base. That's not possible. We don't worry things to a base. We cleanse ourselves from the inside out, and we grow, and we ask for these new ideals to heal us, because we know that the lessons and the promises of these lessons and what comes out of them is undeniable. It's undeniable from like a psychological standpoint, to walk away not better than you were in the past. Well, please just remember too, while I'm saying all of this, we are just humans. Okay. So I'm not sure if I'm illustrating enough how gentle I was during this walk and how fun and curious I made it versus disciplined and shit. That all followed. But it was really fun for me to build my morals. It was really, really fun for me to say, what do I think this world deserves? Like I always said I was good. What is it really? And what can I do to make sure that I stand on 10 with that shit? It's very fun. And taking the path of more exploration and fun with that is easier than being hard on yourself. Okay. So just remember that you're a person. And yeah, this is the thing about me. And I think for everyone, obviously we need guidelines to some extent. Some people are rule followers, are responsible. Me forgetting the word responsible. I'm like, might not need the same guidelines, okay? Might not all need the same thing. For me, from an alcoholic addict standpoint, which is what I'm exposing you to, because this is the deep, darkest side, okay? And I have to hold myself to a different standard than maybe you have to call on. But, if you want to be vigorous with that shit, you can do it the way I did. or view it the way I do or whatever. And that is the fact that I need guidelines, okay? I recognize this. I need rules. That is clear. I need guidelines, but I need ones I can follow. I don't need a rule book. I'm a fucking grown ass bitch. Don't get it twisted. She's grown. She's grown, okay? And I'm tired of following rules. I don't like rules. What I can do is follow a guideline that I built for myself. What I can do is build some morals and make sure I stand on that shit that I inflicted for myself, for the betterment of myself, not only, and also my community and those around me and the world. And that was something I could do. Week 2 is very much so about you building that. And it's fun, like I said. And the accountability aspect that comes with those morals and comes with standing on that shit. Because let me tell you, obviously I'm not perfect, but these are what I hold myself to. How many times have I said that? Cheesy. It's important for me to make myself proud from time to time. Okay. And I think that's important for everyone. And some people, like for me, it is hard to make myself proud. I used to like have accomplishments or do whatever and still just feel like it's not enough. Like even with this podcast, I will not be like necessarily proud sometimes. I'm just like, yeah, trying to like make sure it's perfect or whatever. And I'm like, I did okay. You know, I'm working on that. I have worked on it. Things have gotten easier for me, but I have had a few moments in the podcast too where I felt proud. And that shit felt good as hell. Let me tell you, when I feel proud about this podcast or about anything in my life, I am just on cloud 9. And we all need to be proud every once in a while, okay? As I talk to you about taking away humility. But it was enough. The pride that I carried from building morals and from registering the way I spoke to people and my accountability and all of that, that is a different level of pride that I can live off of. That is enough for me. The better than the reward of what might stand against it. You know what I'm saying? Better than like the test of time, whatever. That is better. And, you know, I'm not sitting here telling you to be perfect. I'm telling you what works. And if that's something that works for your mental health, that type of pride in who you actually are, it takes you a really, really, really long way. And once you get over the vigorous honesty part that we discuss and some of the, you know, like the weird aspects of realizing and recognizing yourself, and you get into the fun, curious side, and where honesty starts to be a little fun, low key, like doing that shit and being proud of it and being so honest and real about who you are is like nuts. And like a feeling like that and building who the fuck you are for real, like it's crazy, and people don't get that opportunity. And for you to have the cognitive ability to do that, I recommend take that. I would, like, if you didn't take any step or any week, this is the week to take. I just find morals and all that shit really cool. We don't live like that anymore. And you know what? Like, I used to watch anime all the time. I still do from time to time, but it low-key gives me hives because my ex-boyfriend loves it, and I always think of him, and I'm like, I have hives now. So I don't really watch it. But it makes me think of that. Like, you know, we don't do that shit. We don't have morals. We're not like, well, I am standing on this for this reason now. Like, you know, that type of crazy, like, animated shit right there. That type of standard, that's like, I want that in real life. You know, like notice me, senpai, notice me. Like, yes, I'm going to do that shit. I'm going to do it right. That I can do. And I'm not sure if it's me taking instruction finally and like digging it is what makes me proud of it. I don't know. But you'll be proud by the end of building your morals and understanding and holding yourself to an internal like compass with that. And like learning how to navigate it. And when your brain arises with things, being able to kind of start to work against it. So yeah. And I got like caught, I think, kind of like I would get caught in like moral dilemma. And you know what's funny? it's embarrassing to admit this, but when I was going through this phase, like this is not me all the time, but like Edie from The Good Place with his like, well, if I do this, whatever, like that kind of deal with decision making on stuff like that. I low-key had it a little bit when building my morals. So like kind of how you're doing week 2 right now, kind of like, where do I see myself in this? Like, what if this is too humble? What if I'm too caring? That doesn't exist. When we build real morals and we build shit like that, I came to realize quickly that I don't need to have all this moral dilemma, because whenever I have these standards and these morals that I hold myself to, when there's cracks or whatever, I know I'm straight. As in, I worked the hardest to make the best resolution. And because of these things that are growing in myself, I have learned patience and peace and understanding that I'm not perfect. And that might not have been the best route to take. It might not have been the most moral thing, but overthinking now is an injustice, which is something I felt before. When finding these moral things and coming to a ledge of peace and learning the balance between this that we're discussing, all this moral shit, and then being a real human. And there are certain things I hold myself to now that I do have to like constantly remind myself of, or like I do have to think about it a second time before I do that thing or say that thing or whatever, and just run it through. And again, that's like that pause moment that you maybe haven't built yet, that sweet moment where you can pause, but you will build that too. So I don't know if that like made sense to you, but it did to me, and it took me far too much brain power to articulate it, so it'll be an episode. So I'm not editing that out. Now, we're not like necessarily discussing defects or what we did wrong, because we discussed that last week. But I will say somewhat, it goes a little bit with defects, you know, how we treat others and stuff. And I guess I already said what my main one was, which was judgment. Really big with judgment. And I didn't always have to be right, but I had to win. So like vengefulness, I guess, in a way. I've never had to always be right, because like know-it-alls piss me off. Like that is something bad. But that's one of those things that I don't think is a spiritual axiom, because like I don't walk around knowing everything, considering I am kind of dumb. So there's that. See, I get wrapped up sometimes in the spiritual axiom thing, and I have to talk myself through it. And I'm glad I observed myself to that way. I'm glad I observe myself like that now, so it's okay. But definitely there are times where I'm like, wait, okay, but that bitch sucks, you know? And it's like, okay, that's not a spiritual axiom. That girl's just a bitch or whatever. I love chatting with you guys. I love making sense. But what was other? I don't know. Okay, so I was going to say defects, but most of them kind of don't have to do with humility anyways. Being vulgar, anger. The vulgar thing, I never saw to be an issue. Okay, clearly. I definitely, especially did not see it to be an issue before. The only thing that was an issue with it is that I was raised in the South and I have the same last name as my mother, and I need to be careful about that. Okay, that was the only type of shit. As I cuss. But I learned that, you know, being vulgar is just like, there's kids, you know, like we're in public. It's about respect, and it's about like decency, you know, which is crazy. Like that's something I had to learn, guys. Like that's something you might carry as a normal person, but like me, no. So like being vulgar is an odd one, and that's not like a moral building thing, but I'm giving you an example of some of my personal defects. Okay. Some of my things that were just like, what? And yeah, being vulgar was definitely a bad one, and I have to work on that all the time. It's so bad. I'm so bad. And I make really bad jokes, low-key. Like, but it's the way I am. Okay. And we're working with her. We're not working against her. Little feats at a time. Okay. Maybe saying shoot instead of shit once in a while, like once every 8 shits, you know, like that's the type of shit we're working with when it comes to my vulgar. Okay. And I learned that from my father. Okay. Before anyone comes on here playing games with me, I learned that straight from my daddy's mouth. Sorry. Love you, Dad. Sorry. We're real here. We're real here. And you know what? Great man. Cusses like a fucking sailor. And I also do as well, unfortunately. Anger. This was something that I carried directly into my life, and I treated others as such. Definitely would get in really, really bad moods. I still have this from time to time, but I talk myself through them now. So if you're somebody who like just has bad moods and like, I don't know, like people just talking to me would piss me off. Like don't look at me, don't come near me, don't ask me how my day was. Please don't say hi. Like, hi, okay, damn. Shit, like, okay. Uh, but like that type of deep rooted anger in my gut where like bad moods are resurfacing. And we've talked about maybe I've got some BPD or something. I don't know. I'm crazy. We all know that too. So those things recycling and me understanding very quickly that can be a cunt and a huge bitch sometimes when I think I'm always nice and I'm always treating people right. No, you got a bad attitude and you're mad at least 2 days out of the week. So get a grip. And I carried that directly to every person I came in contact with. That is selfish and that is wrong. I can work against my emotions. I have to regulate, girl. Get out of that swamp ass shit. That swamp stank attitude, girl. Fix that. Get out. Like, gross. Hello. And I have to understand that I can't walk around like that. If I'm feeling some type of way, I better fix it until I get outside. I better fix it and before I try again. Because if you have nothing nice to say, you don't say anything at all. Okay. We hold ourselves to the standard. Okay. We hold ourselves to the standard. So those are just a few things. But mostly it was also about maybe necessarily you're not bad. Okay. And maybe parts of me are overanalyzed. Okay. And parts of me are great, but it wasn't necessarily about where am I bad, but also where could I be better more so, right? Not where am I bad? Where could I be better? You know, I could put others first in different scenarios. And I discuss all the things that we can do and yada, yada in that one episode we talked about. But how can I push to just be better and better? And like what morals can I instill within myself to keep pushing to be better? Things like kindness and patience was a huge one for me. Learning patience. I'm extremely patient, come to find out. Same how we talked about that one episode where I am a realist and I didn't even know that, where I can be very realistic and very level-headed. I can also be extremely patient, which I did not know, which I'm so glad that's a virtue of mine. I find it paying off very often, especially in a world where my screen is like this too. And patience was a big one that I had to build from the ground up. And that looks like me staring at people like this. You know, while they're saying what they got to say. And it might not even be a close relationship, someone I barely know, whatever. But I gotta exhibit that patience. I gotta exhibit that kindness. And I gotta shut up, sit down, shut the fuck up, and bite my teeth. Bite my tongue. And I gotta sit there and I gotta listen. And I gotta be patient. And I gotta be kind. Because that's who I'm meant to be. And that is a guideline that I can live by. So when I leave this earth, nothing happened. I was a good person. And I love that about myself. I love that. It gives me chills to think about because, you know, a girl needs reasons. Okay, we've talked about my depression. We've talked about my anxiety. A girl need reason. A girl need reason. I am very purpose driven. We discussed that. And to be able to know, hopefully, you know, as long as I stay on track, that I can look back and say, I was good though. You know, I looked out for others. I was kind and I tried to put others first, including strangers. Okay. This is that agape love we discussed. Agape love, y'all. That is where we love above all else. We love at a universal level to every human because in reality, we're the same. We're brother and sister. Okay. And that's not some Christian standpoint. That's not some AA standpoint. That's real life. We're like, maybe not brother or sister, but like we're the same, you know, we're people. And maybe that helped. I would look at people too when they would vent to me when I didn't want to hear it, when I was building these things. And I would think, isn't that crazy that their brain is firing? You know, like that's another person that lives so differently. What is their brain like? It was interesting too, in a lot of ways. So that helped. Yeah. And I think also like I was just a harborer of resentment for sure. That is a big part of me. I've worked on that a lot too. And I'm glad. That's one of those things like patience where I surprised myself a little bit because don't get me wrong. A lot of my defects, a lot of things are stuck. Okay. Or like very, like I've discussed, very moving forward very slowly. But to recognize that I can be actually forgiving and that like I can just move on and not think about stuff. I thought I was doing an injustice to myself to let go of some things. And don't get me wrong. I still have like, I can picture, I can list a few in my head that I definitely hold memory of. Maybe not a resentment, but you know, the scar's there. And maybe that's just because that person wasn't meant to be forgiven. That thing wasn't meant to be forgiven. And I was just trying to remain as open as possible. And that was a big thing with the forgiveness. I recognized that I was a lot more forgiving than I knew before. And because I thought I was protecting myself and all this, when I was learning humility, learning to be humble, and I got my ass out of my own fucking way, the resentments were leaving, because people are sick, dude. Like, people hurt like me. People are suffering. Like, there's a lot going on behind closed doors. And I have to understand that in other people. So I'm not walking away bitter and angry and full of resentment and just pissed the fuck off, wound the fuck up for no reason. Over pride and over ego, explicitly, low key, if we're being real. To find that I was actually very patient and very forgiving, and these little resentments, these little things that I would look at somebody and it could have been like a year ago. And I'm like, I'll never forget, And I was bad at that. I was really bad. Like, and I needed revenge. I just talked about that. But like, she was twisted and she was angry and she was bitter and she was a victim and she blamed the world. And that's okay, because we're growing and because we all start somewhere. We don't blame ourselves, right? That was a test. Are you blaming yourself? You shouldn't. Love you. You're perfect. Well, now we're going to go over. Oh, and I said this too, but putting myself second was easy. I think I discussed that in the same basis of the purpose part of being a better person, but it made it easy. I knew what I was supposed to be doing. I had these guidelines and I built them for myself, and it was easy. Healing in ways like that make things a lot easier. And that goes with also working with who you are as a learner as well. And like how you are with like responsibility, I guess, or how you are with learning and taking things in, I guess. And for me, that was taking authority out of the picture and being like instilling bumpers that aligned with life. Okay. That is a very, very big. Okay. That recipe took a lot of time. It took me a lot of time to find that and to find what works with my brain when learning and when transforming. Like during metamorphosis, bitch. Like, this is metamorphosis. This is what we're aiming for. This isn't no little walk in the park. We're going to get a little better. We are aimed at metamorphosis. We don't want to be that shit. We want to be someone new. We want to be all the stuff that we're instilling. I want to carry that around naturally. That is the goal. And I don't care if it takes my whole life for me to not have to think twice about something. So be it. Maybe I'll never get to the bottom of it. Maybe I always have to think twice. But guess what? At least I do now. And that's not something I had before. I built that, So yeah. Okay, so week 2. Life is worth a living. Ooh, my hair is like really messy today, so I'm sorry if it's been a witchy girl. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. C.S. Lewis said that. We're on week 2. And I'll just read this out loud again. Like, I'll just do it the same way I did week 1. Week 2 is about learning to be softer, kinder, and more gentle. This was not easy for me. Above all, it teaches us we learn from others, observing our less desirable actions and being honest in our discoveries, seeing the way anger, judgment, and paranoia have flooded our lives. Much like week 1, week 2 is structured by a set of questions as well as implementing actively helping others. Humility is at the base of empathy and intelligent emotions. It is of utmost importance we learn we are no more important than the next. Our goal for 7 days is to be conscious of as many interactions with others as we possibly can. Connection will always be the opposite of addiction. While I was reading that, which was hard for me to read, I wrote that. So how was that hard for me to read? And I had a thought while I was reading that. The thought was that my mom keeps telling me to use AI for stuff, and my other friend, Rob, keeps telling me to use AI. That's cheating. I'm not using AI for the podcast. I didn't use AI for any of the website, all of the writings, everything is mine. Okay. I feel like that's cheating. And that takes the fun out of it. I want to write my own paragraphs and have to use punctuation and shit. So anyways, Monday. So like I said, I just read it. I'm not repeating myself. Monday. Am I patient? And how often am I annoyed in a day? Again, This is on Canva, okay? Link in description, link in bio, link wherever you want to fucking find it, okay? Just click on my name and you will be able to find the link to this Canva, okay? Am I patient? How often am I annoyed in a day? My answer for this was a lot. Back in the day, girl. Back in the hizzy, I was annoyed often, girl. I was not patient, girl. This is about observation, though, okay? And the task for that day is to leave early and be patient while driving, allow others to go first. I recommend you do this for like as many routes as you can or whatever, like throughout your day. You're busy, I'm sure, but this is odd, but the driving situation scenario, and other alcoholics, addicts get this because it's, for some reason, it's a thing because it represents society and how we act to others. Really, is in a car, you know. It's a big like a big representation, I think, an illustration of what we really are. And to be conscious of my driving and stuff, and be conscious of that, and like how I treat others, and like, is it cool if that person goes first, or am I pissed off by it? You know, it seems little, but like that whole driving situation and the analogy, like all of it worked for me. So I want to expose you to that. Okay. Now, Tuesday, are my moods stable? Girl, are my moods stable? Are others able to depend on me? I think that's a great question for so many reasons. And I want you to be honest when answering these. I still don't think my moods are all the way stable to this day, because I'm crazy. We talked about it. It's just something I work on. I don't expect them to be stable. But is it like the type of stable that's out of hand? Like, where are you at, girl? You know, and I want you to be real, because other people might answer that differently. Sorry. Love you. Same with others depending on you. Be honest with that shit, girl. The thing for that day is to do one kind thing that requires you to go slightly out of your way. So an example would be like taking a cart for somebody into a store that is next to you and dropped off their groceries in their car, or carry your trash out if you see a neighbor going to take their trash, or bring in their she's burpy, bring in their trash bins too, whatever, stuff like that. Okay. Wednesday, where am I angry at the world? What do I need to repair that relationship? Why am I mad though? Why am I so mad? And how do I repair this? And what I mean by what do I need to repair this relationship is a answerable, faceted question in a way. Because what morals do I need? What do I physically need? What do I cognitively need? What do I emotionally need? You know, there's a lot of things that we need to repair our relationship with the world, which we discussed in other episodes in the past. So if you want to go look at that, you can. But yeah, we need a lot of things to repair a relationship with life. I still am repairing my relationship with life all the time. And I find new ways to be pissed off all the time. You know, I'm a human. There's so many things to be pissed about. Trust me, I know. And then this day you will do a favor for someone close to you. Whatever that looks like. If that's hard to find, then you can just redo going slightly out of your way for somebody, if that's not going to work for you. But you know, what pops in my head is I would show up at my parents' house. Okay. I live near my parents. So if somebody asked me to do that, you have to do something today for someone close to you, I go to my parents' house and see what needs cleaning or fixing or whatever. Okay. That's a good example. Or say you got someone, your bestie, can I do anything for you for today? You know, or Abby pops in my mind, my friend that had her baby. Anything I can do for you? Something like that, okay? Thursday. Do I put others first? That is the only question Thursday. But it is the only question because, like I said, these questions are meant for you to do maybe in the morning and revolve your day around them, obviously, okay? So do I put others first on your mind that whole day? And really being honest about the analyzing of that and being like, am I though? Or am I whiny? Do I need it? Is it about me? Is it I need to go first? I need to have this. No, it's because of my circumstance. I need that more than you. No, I'm going to be late. That's more important than you being late. That type of vibe, right? And because that's very real. Guys, this isn't me calling you out. This is just how we revolve, how we act as people. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just we have to be made aware of these things. That's why I'm not so hard on myself now, because I've come to learn that we pop out like this. We're an environment, or we're a result of life, or a result of our environment and of the world around us. And we don't always put others first. We don't analyze things at this level. So it's okay. And you can be real and be honest about it. It doesn't make you a bad person if you didn't put others first. Most people don't. Like, I still have to consciously do that shit all the time. It's not normal. So don't feel bad. And then that day you'll do another thing that requires you to go out of your way, like the cart or whatever. Friday, where do I see a loss of patience this week? Was it easy or hard for me to be conscious of my actions? So a little bit of analyzation from throughout the week. Was it hard for you to like be conscious in the interactions you had? Was it hard for you to be patient? And I want you to analyze like what it was like, kind of. And then that day again, you will do a favor for someone close to you. We're just going back and forth with the favors because this is how personally I built a lot of my humility. And because the philosophy of like how they say, if you want real change, you have to start in your own backyard, and like it's the man in the mirror and like this very small level thing. My mom works in, before she does her profession that she does now, she worked in nonprofit organizations, okay? And she was always she's very much so like that type of girl. Like, she wants this to be a better place for people in a very community-based way, which is just like incredible. And I'm very happy I was raised by that woman for that reason. And I take on a lot of her thinking because she taught me a lot of this stuff. And now I understand, like, it's not about changing the world. It's about like, how can I make my neighbor's life better? Like, these are the things that we take with us to the grave. These are the things that matter. And these are the things that shape our brain to work with our morals and work with our internal compass to regulate. And yeah, so that's why I go back and forth, because I needed to consciously be like doing shit actively for others, and in small ways that don't get me a thank you, and that like obviously, you know, that's silly, but like we don't do that shit all the time. We don't, and like I don't get why we don't. It builds so much in us. And so like even now I'll have certain days where my day is about helping people, or like if I don't want to go do something, I have to remember it is helping somebody and I need to go do it. Okay. Saturday, how often am I thinking negatively of others? We kind of discussed, God, stop texting me, girls. We kind of discussed judgment, right? And all that stuff a minute ago during this episode. So you get what I mean by that. And how is that negativity influencing your life? How often are you thinking negatively of others, including yourself? How is the spiral of your thinking revolving around that during a day? Because you can't be happy if it's constant. And it's okay to be vulnerable about it. Like, this is naturally who we are, you know, like we're on fucking edge. And then that day Saturday is big day. So like whatever you want to put out into the world. So this is an example. I think I've used this before on the podcast when I talked about it, but like I used to take bouquets of flowers to a park. I used to do this in Florida, or at the beach here. I've done it. Just a bouquet of flowers, like sunflowers, something cheap. And then giving one to like other girls you see pass by, just to get a smile and make them feel better about themselves. And that was one thing that I did. That's an example. Or like volunteering, obviously volunteering wherever you want. So like soup kitchens, whatever. That's what this day is for. And I also thought too, like if, you know, you're looking for something fun, you could make something for a stranger. I thought that'd be cute. Like what if you used your morning, like making a pottery thing, and while you're doing it, thinking of the person and like putting good intention into it and like hopeful for their success, and then like give it to some old lady you just see. This is the type of shit we need in the world, guys. And how fun is it to hold ourselves to that standard? How great is that? Life can be so simple, and it is not. And it is not. And we made it that way. Life didn't make it that way. We did as individuals. And I wish I saw that earlier. And that's what I'm trying to open you up to also. You know, we need humility. We need to be humble in this life. Facts. Period. Like we need it. We really do. Most people need it. And like I said, we learn from others. If I didn't already say it, being conscious for as many interactions that you possibly can in a day is what week 2 looks like, and what humility and all this looks like. Just being conscious until it fucking hurts, like over and over. And it's practice makes perfect. And maybe that's what worked for me, was like, I have to drill things, and I've learned that's what works in my brain. I got to drill it. And it was constant for me, and it was constant until now my interactions, I'm not always perfect, but I think differently now after all this. I think clearly and in a way that isn't deprecating of myself or of others. Period. Point blank. Period, bitch. Like, honestly, be a good person. That's a bad bitch right there. A bad bitch has morals, is kind, and is humble, and is exhibits an extreme amount of humility. And it just allows you to see things so much easier. Like, obviously you get so many good things out of this, but like seeing conflict, seeing resolution, seeing people for what they are, like not what they've done. And like, you know, like every issue, every interaction, all the problems in the world, there's two sides, and both sides are often right, and it's often stupid, and like it puts an end to so much of like the squabble that naturally occurs either within or with others, like that natural squabble, like that, just that shit, that heat in the kitchen in life. It needs to dissipate, and it's just this is how we do it, you know. Then reflection. You're gonna make a list of morals you'd like to develop. What do you stand by? For example, mine is kindness, patience, empathy, putting others first, resilience, not stealing, honesty, all these things, guys. Those are just a few examples because I feel like some of my, I don't know what I should say on here, you know. But make a list of morals, things that you want to stand by. Okay, that's fun to do. It was fun for me to do. And observe and go into detail about your sleep, diet, routine, and where would you like to be? Because this is about observation of not only how we treat others, but how we are in general. So like an observation of like, bitch, do you sleep 8 hours and eat 3 meals? Prob's not. So jump on it. And where would you like to be? Because that's not healthy. And then third, you'll write an apology letter to the world and examine your angers after this week of observation. Yeah, self-explanatory. We've got a lot to say to the world, and we need to fix our relationship, and we're sorry, right? Is that how you feel after this? I hope it's how you feel. And then reflect on alcohol's effect on your relationships. Where has it stood in the way of your morals? We all know. Go into detail if you want. Don't beat yourself up over stories of the past. Whenever I think back to a specific situation that I did the wrong thing and where I need help, I do it like a bullet point. Quick, brief synopsis within a sentence or less, if I can use certain 5 words about the situation. Don't beat yourself up. Don't go into all this. It affected my relationship because I did this thing on this day. Like, no, it isn't what we did. It's how we get better. Okay, we're moving forward. We're not looking behind. And again, also, I wanted to say, if at any point during any of this work you are feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling upset, stop. Take a breath. Take a step back. If you want to divide these into 2 weeks, like however you want it to fit. And it's suggestion based, and focus on yourself first. Don't let yourself get upset. That's not what we want. I mean, yeah, like you're going to have realizations. You might be upset at learning your behaviors, but if you can do that in a way that is manageable, and you should know that, like what is manageable, and I hope you do, or you're going to learn it. Yeah, just like make sure you're at a manageable level. If it's freaking you out, things are freaking you out, take a break. Don't push. And I realized that like I was getting lighter and lighter. Like the more humble and more humility was brought to my doorstep, was like the easier it was for me to be lighter, and the easier that life got. And things weren't so much to me anymore. As like I'm dramatic, I freak out, I'm exaggerative, like I'm a loose cannon in a lot of ways. And like, so to be lighter and for that to be easy, and that's why we build these very big, real crazy things, because that's the relief we get. And like, I'm a nutcase. Like I need that type of like gentle agape fucking relief and healing, like to my core, shake my morals, shake who I am. Like, let me see, because that's that type of crazy I'm on. Like that's the type of freak that I am. You know, and I'm not scared to admit it that at all, obviously, fucking sitting here. So, hey girl. And then each night too, I would note take, which I think this is to each their own. Okay. For me, the note taking was subtle. It was, like I said, I can jot down and identify my faults easily without going too much into the situation. This took a lot. If you want to talk about overthinking, talk about shame, guilt, I've got plenty of episodes on it. The overthinking, all of that was like out of hand, definitely on occasion. But I learned that how to be gentle with myself when observing and when analyzing, and put on like the scientific goggles, I feel like helps, and like the philosophical goggles, and make it a project, make it an assignment, make it a game in a way. At least for my brain was helpful. And so I would come home from work and I would list some of the great things that I had done, some things that my brain had a feat that day, or it stopped before it moved forward. Even if it moved in not the best direction, at least I stopped. Like this was the beginning. And I did that every night. I would come home and be like, I did this good. And then also, I'm a bitch and I was bad. I was a bad girl. And I did some bad things on multiple accounts, and they were written down and cared for. The next day I would read them before getting started, and then maybe write my gratefulness thing out and talk about some gratefulness in there too. And remember that gratefulness and humility is at the base of all this shit. And I can easily get to who I want to be by being fucking grateful. It's crazy. By being grateful, I can transform my life and I can be exactly who I want to be. Because why am I freaking out about what I don't have? Like what? And why is it taking me so long to drill that in my brain? Maybe it needs to be there. Why is it not there? Do normal people have this? Do they not? It doesn't matter. I need to build it. Okay. So that was something I did, a tip and trick. If you want to really analyze your behavior and really analyze the way you treat others and what you do wrong and really learn accountability. And I think that's ironically enough for girls who don't have it naturally, like myself. So which is ironic, but that's the type of teaching that I needed. And that type of vigorous shit in terms of accountability, constant, the dedication with that. That's just what I needed. So, and I was gaining from all this, from writing that out, from doing that shit so many times, I was gaining real, genuine peace from others. Which I was not even having to a certain extent. I'm just honestly, everyone's a chore. I'm pissed talking to anyone. You're all a fucking chore to me. It's how I was feeling for a little bit. I love people. Okay. That was a result of my mental health. That's not who I am. And obviously I didn't really think that, but I love my friends, but it was a chore, and that's due to my mental health. Around anything was a fucking chore. So I was getting the joy out of others again. And that was a really big deal to me. And making sure that our joy comes from within, but also from others too. And that it's not an outside thing, or it's not only from within. And make sure that our joy can be found on multiple faces amongst multiple people, and that our love can be registered amongst multiple faces. And it spreads the love out and the joy out all over life. When you associate people with joy and you see this face here and this face here, how can it not brighten life and brighten your day? And in turn, strangers becoming beautiful too, through humility and through gratefulness and all these things. Now strangers are beautiful again. And it's just the joy that comes from that shit, and painting life as a beautiful picture and starting with an empty canvas is just gorgina as fuck. That shit slays. And this was obviously, like I said, this was my favorite part of recovery. It was by far my favorite part of recovery. It still is one of my favorite parts, because for many reasons, I'm not going to sit here all day. We're probably already done time wise, but because it is me being vigorously honest, and a lot of the morals, a lot of the things that I wasn't before. When I forget, or when it's hard, or when I slide, I'm reminded, through these very things and through others. So yeah, my favorite part of all of it, is the humility. I think that is one of my favorite takeaways from recovery as a whole. But this is about mental health. And so mostly for my mental health was that. And it was just a huge game changer. And I kind of just had that realization right here. So that was great. I always take something away, guys, now from doing these. I don't get it. Okay. And then I've been saying this, but we're not ever too young to care, guys. This sets me up for a beautiful, beautiful future. I can't even imagine a beautiful future if I can stay on this path. And we're not too young to change it. We're not too young to change these things in ourselves. We don't have to be 50 to be a good person anymore. It's an excuse, and you're hiding behind it, and you're hiding behind that person's been through more, so they're going to act that way. We can build that shit. We don't have to learn in life based off experience, we can learn based off of straight learning and exposure and being diligent and real as fuck. Okay. So you're not too young to care. And I always say that, but I think that's a great point to make you want to go on this journey with me, to make you want to be here, girl. So yeah, that's week 2. And then media wise, what does media wise look like? Character is how you treat others who can do nothing for you. That's Nelson Mandela. And the book suggestions were Good Vibes, Good Life by Vex King, The Marshmallow Test, Walter Mischel, and The Power of Kindness by Reagan Hill was a TED Talk in 2018. And then The Mind Explained on Netflix was one of my favorites. I watched it in early sobriety, and it taught me the patterns of, like, in life, we all, like, we need firefighters, we need teachers, we need all of these different personalities to make a cohesive life, okay? And understanding that from, like, a way back level just allows for humility and peace to be brought in, like, continuously. And that expanded me and my like, tool, my paintbrushes and shit. Like, it expanded me so much. Like, it added so much, like, emotional intelligence and humility to the spectrum for myself. And I need that, girl. I need that. So The Mind Explained on Netflix is actually very good. It just talks about the brain and stuff, but it was very good for my humility, which is odd. But so that is week 2, guys. It's over. Oh my God, that's week 2. So remember to be honest with yourself, be honest with others, be grateful, and be kind. And buckle in, because it's okay. We're all angry, girl. You're not alone. I'm mad. I am like that girl, like, you know that teenage girl sound on TikTok where it's like, like, I can't. Or is that Pearl? Is that Pearl, that one girl? I don't even know anything about Pearl, but only from TikTok. Is that from a movie? I don't know. But, like, that is me. I encompass that. Like, I am rage. I am tantrum. I am girl. Mad girl. Like, I embody PMS a lot. I really do. So anyways, get honest with yourself, queen. And I hope week 2 goes great for you. Look at this widow peak. What? Okay. I hope week 2 goes well. And again, stay vigilant in journaling. If you didn't already clean your space after week 1, moving on to week 2, I urge you to clean your space now. Take some journaling, take some time, and don't forget the meditation. Meditation. Okay. Well, I love you, girls. Have a great week. See you soon. Bye.